final session of Paint This with Jerry Arnell on this beautiful painting called King of His Domain. And this is going to be so much fun, folks. I couldn't wait for this day to get here. You know, there's some paintings you do and, they're okay, but there are some things you just really get excited about. Mostly it's because of things you like to do. And of course, like I mentioned, I always gravitate to high country things, mountains and animals and birds and all that kind of stuff. And of course, these are based on information we get from letters and cards and emails from you all, what subject you like. This is that grizzly bear way up in the high country. Now, I've done an amazing painting. Now, here's our photograph. I'm going to share our reference material right quick before I explain what I've done. Now, this is the original photograph that I'm using for the bear and some of the debris that's in front of him. I just think the setting's perfect. This is a black and white. Now, I use this to block him in, and then I use this for my color. And so that's what I've done over here. I've gone ahead and I've blocked him in, not to get ahead of you guys, so I'm going to explain this to you, and I'm going to finish him out here. But I had my sketch, if you remember in our last session, and all I've done, let me go ahead and show you this so you can get caught up here. You want to block him in with your number 4 bristle brush because you can get a little rougher edge. The front of him is done with burnt umber and a little burnt sienna. And that'll give you this deep, dark tone. And what you'll do is, when you take your umber, a little sienna, just kind of double load your brush, mix them together slightly. And you can see that it's colored a little reddish. And you just pull in like this. You fill in the shape of him with these nice pull-down strokes. And work right up into the edge of his body so that you can create a softer, rougher edge. And the reason I went ahead and got this much done, because I wanted to make sure he was good and dry so that we can start the highlighting process right away. So you just pull down, look for his little shape here. He's got this little beard hanging down there, and this little spot right underneath him there. And then his legs, they've got these real furry, hairy legs like this. And just get this little shape. As you come across the backside here, now, I'm no expert on bears, believe me. I don't know that much about them. I've seen them in the wildlife because I do a lot of backpacking. But the grizzly bears have this big hump, and that's what makes them fun to paint because it gives them more form than just a big round body. Now, you get on the backside, if you go to the reference material, let me show you this. See, here's the dark part which I was just talking to you about right here. When you get on a little further over here, it gets to the more golden color. Now, we still want a darker version of it. So you take the umber and sienna, add a little bit of yellow to it, and see that makes it more of a golden color. And then you just kind of block that in, and you begin feathering it into this section. And then you come on down here. This is behind him. I'm going to go ahead and finish him up here. Then while he's drying, we'll go ahead and work on the rest of the landscape that I'm going to try to get done. Now this is right in through here. See it angles like this? Please don't lose that angle. And then this part is the darker part of his leg that's in front of that one. And so I'm going to put just a little more yellow in this mixture for this part right here. And he's kind of down in behind this log. If you put just a little white in that, folks, we're not ready to highlight it yet, but I want to lighten it even more. And the reason is because when we put this front leg on there, I really want that front leg to pop out a little bit more. So I just took it down up about another value and a half. Okay, now this little section right here, I'm going to have them pull over here. I want them to see this reference material right quick. Okay, so what we just did, I just blocked in this section right here. Now we're going to block in this section, which is the front leg. And then there's this little space between the two front legs. Those logs are covering the other one. But they're so full of hair and fur or whatever. And then here's his rib cage, the under part of his body. There's a little shadow there. Now that will develop later when we highlight it. But right now you go to this part, rinse your brush if you want it to be nice and dark. Go back to the umber and the sienna. And let's see. I think I'll put a little blue in that. I want to darken it just a hair. That's better. See how dark that is? You want to see just a slight difference between those two values. Now these legs look really funny. And there's this little spot right there that I was talking to you about that's on the other one. I need to close it down a little bit. Now all you got to go by is your reference material. So if you're not using this particular bear, you might be using your own. You have to check for all these little pockets of negative space. And how many times have you all heard me talk about that? Your responsibility is to get the negative space right so that your forms will be right. Actually, that leg's a little wider than that. Comes out a little further. Then we can put the log back up in there that's in front of him. So we'll let this set for a little bit before we highlight it, and then we'll kind of go from there. Now I'm going to put just a little dark shadow right there, again where his underbelly is. So if you just drag a little of that color right there just for the moment, and then a little later when we highlight him, that'll pop right out. Let's see how cool that is. All right, so there's your bear, basically underpainted. Now while that's drying, I want to go back and do a little more work on this area. I want to bring the highlights up a little bit on the rocks. So I want to take the number 4, the chisel edge, the synthetic nylon brushes, and come down here and take the white, a little bit of water, touch of orange, maybe a little yellow. We want to get this a little bit brighter now, because remember the sunlight's coming in from the left or the right. And so what we're going to do is keep these a little stronger on the edges. This is important that you get some of this just a little bit brighter on these edges to give it a little more glow. So almost, this is a little bit of a, well, I don't want to use the word monochromatic, but it's kind of a monotone painting. It's got just a lot of dull, you might call them neutral tones, which is one of the things I like to work with. And then so you can put little touches on the, going over the edge a little bit for it. See, this where you can kind of get this edge looking a little bit better, so you can see back in that little crevice a little bit. I think that's, I love that little spot there. Well, it's crazy. Artists get excited about some of the funniest things. I used to drive my family crazy driving down the road because I wanted them to stop and look at an old dead tree or piece of rusty barbed wire, an old cow skull or something. And they're all thinking, man, what kind of mind have you got? Because most people don't get excited about that stuff because it's not important to them, but it is to an artist. It's that little highlight just put right back there. It's kind of neat because it also brings it forward in front of those pine trees a little bit more. All right. And you can bring as much light into this as you guys choose. That's completely up to you. Now just tease just a little bit more. These are just quick, decisive kind of strokes that have a little bit of a flatness to them so that they can look a little more chunky. See how it makes the rocks look a little chunkier? Take a stroke and leave it. Take your finger and slightly blur it a little bit if you want. Come over the edge a little bit, soften it, so you can see that little pull over. I'm using my finger a lot more than normal, and that's fine. Just don't get used to using it to the point to where it becomes your blending substitute for a brush, because I've noticed this, a lot of people get in the habit of using their finger too much, and then your paintings take on that real smudgy, soft, rounded look. Now, let's understand, we like soft edges, but when it's overall too much the same, it looks really not good. It's not crisp and clean, and you've got to keep an eye on that kind of thing too. So, everything in painting, just like anything in life, do it in moderation, and you'll be fine. Just don't over highlight, don't over smudge, just enough to slightly blend, and you'll be okay. Now, I think I've got enough miscellaneous highlights here. We'll do a little bit more work on the debris, and then we're going to finish our bear, and then you can kind of go from there. You can finish it out however you want to. Yeah, see, that gives me enough highlight now that I feel a little better about my cap. I was just not happy with that. All right, now let's go in here. Let's take our script brush and find it, buried in here. We go. Now, right back here, I want to get a couple of dead twigs, or you might call them, these are just the little saplings, at the base of the trees that come up. Coming out of here, I'll probably come up with a nice little twiggy branches that kind of part of the debris deal. Believe me, if you've ever been up backpacking up in this country, it's all this underbrush is an exciting thing. It's fun, but it sure gets in your way because, if you're not careful, you'll be walking through a thing and you'll get slapped in the face with a sticker bush, and that's no fun. Or if you're I've hiked up in the desert areas and, accidentally stick your hand on one of those cactus and you get 1,000 of those little things embedded in your skin. You sit there for an hour trying to pick them out with tweezers. So you learn how to be careful. I see how I'm putting these little twiggy branches coming out of these little clumps here just for effect and make it look a little more complete. I'm doing all the dark stuff first, and then you can do the light stuff later. Get up around here, coming out of the debris where the bear is. He should be dry enough now that we can go back to him, because after all, he is sort of the main theme here. And you've all done this kind of stuff probably 1,000 times, so putting more colored weeds and things would be important. Now that he's dry, let's take a damp paper towel. I said that last week and wiped part of my tree off. I think he's dry, though. That's why it pre-blocked him, so we wouldn't have to deal with that. Wipe in towards him just in case. Get the charcoal off. Now that he's in there, now go back to your number 2 chiseled edge. Please tell me I have it. Yeah, there it is. Okay, and go down here to your palette. We're going to take a little bit of yellow and white, and we're going to make just a touch of orange to create a gold. And we're going to start putting some minor highlights on him. See that gold color, just a touch more orange. Okay, now where his ear is up here, just put a little tap. And that'll be the top of his ear there, see? And then on the top of his head, there's a little highlight. On the top of his nose. And then where his eye is, there's a little highlight. See, by just making those little highlights, you can suggest where things go. And then the back ear has a little highlight on the other side. And his ears, of course, are between. The head is between those two. Then there's this little silver lining. And you kind of pull down like this. Go up here. And it's a little fuzzy on the edge. In fact, it's kind of reddish. I'm going to put a little red in with that. I put too much, but I have this more yellow in there. There's always that danger, you know. That's why you have to do things, folks, in so incremental amounts. Just a little redder. See, I fan my brush out and you skim it. Wipe some of that off. But there's that little highlight right on top of him. And as it comes around on this hump right here, now this is where you start dividing up the little areas of the skin where it looks a little bit more dimensional. So I'm going to add enough gesso to opaque it, and the yellow to stay in these golden colors. And starting right back here on his back, then on his rear end back there, tap in these little highlights and kind of gently pull in. See how it kind of forms this edge, and then drag down. Now follow the contour of the body like this. Leaving little pockets. And this little spot that I just put right there, I'm going to make it a little wider. That's the pivotal point between the front and the back. So to make it just a little brighter, it's a terrific spot to exaggerate a highlight. Make this a little brighter right there. Feather it down into the main part of the body. See how cool that looks. Now he's starting to look dimensional. It doesn't take much. Now take your color, work on down, a little bit further into the him. You got to get this paint moist enough that it slides. Now see where I'm flicking my brush like this? I'm actually twisting it. See, I'm twisting it with my thumb twisting it. You kind of pull down like this. So when you do this, we're going to form his rib cage. See, that'll form his rib cage, his belly. Now see that little shadow right there? Now see how it makes him stand out? It looks really dimensional. Now on his edge right here, with these little highlights, these little ripples. Doesn't take much. This just kind of comes down here like this. And just kind of drag in a few little highlights within the structure of his front part here. You don't want to get too much because this has to stay in shadow, folks. The mistake a lot of people make, they drag these highlights too far into the front of him. And then you lose it. So you just put just enough to make it look dimensional. Now let's put a little more white in the mixture. Touch more yellow. And we're going to brighten up the glow, the silver lining part of him, so to speak. Especially up here on his neck. We really want this to pop. Your finger gently blur it. Kind of bring down a little smish of it like that. Kind of helps. But see, that defines his neck. As it goes up here, it goes kind of in shadow, goes behind the hump, and then it gets brighter again a little bit more on the top side here. So that silver lining is really critical. And you just build that on around the back of his rear end here. Pulling in. We'll highlight there a little. See, all I'm doing is layering now. Bringing the light up a little brighter. Just kind of tap it. So that's that little lining there, and it makes it look like the sun sitting in the back side of him. Probably should hit a little more on the top of his head over here. Not much you can do with the rest of his face because there's just nothing there. So, you just have to assume it is there. But you just have to get a little highlight on his head right there. It's about all you can do. I think I'll make it just a little flatter right there. Yeah, that's a little bit better. And then I'm going to take my script brush and I'm going to take some dark brown and blue. And even though that highlight has to be there for the eye, I'm going to make it just a little bit narrower and make the eye just a little darker. Inside the ear just a little darker. And then take your finger and smush it. You can see inside it a little bit. You can actually put a little bit of this. He almost got a smile on his face. You just put a little line for his mouth. That's all you see over there. And then he's got this little lip sticking out right there. And this little part right underneath there, that's his beard. You can do that with this script brush too if you want to go ahead and give it just a little bit more of a hair-like effect. Just pull it down like you would weeds. Just let the little hair show up on the edge of it. It really adds a nice touch to it, I think. Instead of that eye in just a little bit more. See, this is where it's hard on TV to show this stuff, folks, because if you're in your studio, if you're a wildlife artist, it takes time to work it out. You can't just sit down and paint it. You can do certain things, but see, I'm trying to clean up that edge a little bit to make it look a little more natural, and it just takes a little bit of playing around. Now, as usual, I run out of time, and I'm going to get frustrated. So I'm going to put a little bit of these little hairs right here on the edge, so you can see those against that contrast. So what I'm going to do now is go back in here. Your final thing is to put any brighter highlights. I'm going to put just a little more color on his main body. So you go back here and you take that umber, bend it down with the white, work it into your brush nicely, and you put some little soft right through here. Little soft strokes. Like this. What this does is defines the shape of his neck. Kind of separates it from that back leg right there. See, if you look real close, and I don't think they can close in to see it, folks, but this part has to be separated from underneath here. This part's the back leg right here. So this, you can see there's a little light area right there. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm putting just a little light to connect the neck to the rest of the body over here. And this leg, see, has been connected to the rest of him. And so you just kind of put these little swishy strokes to suggest air, and so it doesn't look so dark all at once there. But although I have to say, I think we just about got that. I'm going to make that dark a little darker. So these are the adjustments you make. Go back with the blue and the umber. Let's get that back leg a little darker. Yeah, that's what we want. And this side of this one a little darker. Right underneath them a little darker. And you can just kind of scatter darkness wherever you see a contrast is needed. Like right here. The darkness is the key. Dark against light, dark against light. And there's kind of how you build your bear. I just love this kind of thing. It's just, you can play with this, folks, for a little bit if you want to, and come up with all kinds of little effects that you'd like. Maybe you can flip up a hair. They actually have this little hair, frankly, that flips up. If you can pull it off up right up here, just flip it. See that little hair sticking up? That is really cool looking. They have this little, kind of like a cowlick right there. All animals have them. And then you just decide how bright you want it to be. If you want to put a brighter silver lining, you can. But what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and get my little bit of highlights on the logs that are in front of it. I want to get this log right here. You take this highlight. See, I'm doing this. and you come right on across in front of it, so it looks like the logs crossing, and that gives it a little more dimension. Then you can put a limb coming up in front of it. And so a lot of people miss these little things that give it so much more interest and depth. So now I can come in here and darken this one a little bit more, and this one. You could make this log come all the way out here if you want to, so you could drag it way out there. See, so it's kind of in front of him, and put a little height on it. But you can have a blast with this debris. And it just adds a lot more interest to the bear. I put a limb coming down like that, one down like this. And so don't be afraid, you guys, to experiment and enjoy the process. And this is just one of those things in painting where you just got to learn to not be afraid to try new things. And it's just contrast. Just think about it's always contrast. See, I'll darken some of these. And as usual, we're about to run out of time. But we're far enough along now. Most of you should be able to finish this without any trouble. And then you can take your script brush and put these final weeds in the foreground. And I go with some light yellow, greenish ones, maybe a little olive color, but just something to give a little contrast to these foreground weeds. And this is how you finish it. Hasn't this been fun painting? I really hope you've enjoyed it. This has been more fascinating to me than what I've done in a long time. I guess it is because I like this kind of subject. And I think you'll enjoy learning this myself, even if you don't put the bear in there. But go through now and get a lot of nice weeds, darks and lights, different colors. Enjoy the process of finishing it. And in our next session, we're going to start a brand new painting. I've already got it figured out. It's going to be a beautiful scene. You're going to love it. You're going to learn a lot from it. It'll be a little challenging for those of you that are liking a little more advanced stuff. And I know a lot of you are asking for that. So yes,